thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm very excited about this game. I'm Blaze of the Premier League, and raring to go for Liquid versus Empire, Game 1 of this best-of-3 series. We're going to be looking at this major clash of the Titans, one of the best teams in the U.S. scene compared to one of the best in the European by far. Both of these teams are performing really well recently. I'm really excited about it, and we're going to get on to the game in just a minute. So I'll have Rainmaker in here, and here the game is ready, so let's get on into it.
Yeah, again, I'm really excited to be here because not only are these two of the most powerful teams in both their respective scenes, but they're both on fire right now, playing very, very well. And I think, especially for Team Liquid, this is the best Dota we've seen out of them so far. Definitely actualizing the potential we saw when they first came together as a team. I'm definitely hoping we see an amazing match, and I'm kind of curious to see if Team Liquid will finally be able to be the team that's able to stop Empire's freight train of aggression.
Yeah, they're an absolute powerhouse. They always have been, and their current style is just really with the meta, going with huge amounts of aggression, getting tons of farm on players rather like Scandal and Blow Your Brain, where they can play aggressive carries and just go to town with lots of aggression. Maybe an Orchid Malevolence on a Clinks or something like that. A lot of different ways they can play it. But Team Liquid also shows signs of really heavy early game pressure. They've kind of hit their stride recently. They're on a 10-game spree, and they want to keep that going. So they're going to be going up against pretty much the best opponent they've faced in a number of weeks in my mind, and this is going to be a really exciting matchup here. Right now we're on the European server, and we're going to bounce back and forth between those two, but starting off we do see a Gyrocopter ban. That's going to be an interesting option there. One interesting thing about Team Liquid's lineup is they love to switch up their number 1, 2, and 3 roles. They have Bulba on it, they have TC on it, they jump all over the place, but Gyrocopter is one of those heroes that fits into a bunch of different roles. He can go on the mid and play a ganking lineup, or he could go for a hard carry and just dish out tons of AoE physical damage. But either way, it's a hero that Team Empire doesn't want to deal with. We're going to see him banned out along with the Keeper Light and the Nyx Assassin.
Yeah, I really think the Nyx Assassin is a great ban coming out from Team Liquid. They want to go and limit those overpowering heroes from Team Empire. I also wouldn't be surprised to see a Wisp ban here, because you can't afford to let Team Empire get those heroes that allow them to set the pace of the game so strongly. And I feel that if you leave that to Empire, you need to go and make sure you have complete map control. On that note, Coddle being banned out from Team Empire means that Team Liquid isn't going to have those options for that sick counter push, and there is in fact the Wisp ban. So Team Empire's strongest two, early game pressure, complete map domination heroes are out of the pool. Also, Blaze, I'm getting some sick robo from you, so I'm going to go and hang up and then see if we can fix that.
No problem, no problem. But what we're looking at here, the Batrider picked up pretty early on. He has been first ban material for quite a long time, and honestly haven't seen him picked that aggressively, but it's one of those heroes that Empire loves to run, whether they put him in the jungle or in the mid lane. Either way, he's going to get the farm that he needs to move in towards that Blink Dagger, and once that mobility, that potential to jump in and pull somebody out of position is available, they're going to use that and abuse it to make sure that the enemy is constantly scrambling just to pick up from the team fight. And there's a lot of different ways to counter it. You could pick up something as simple as a Crystal Maiden to Frostbite and hold the Batrider in position once he goes into an aggressive spot, as he's generally not that tanky if he rushes the Blink. But another option is this Clockwork here. TC loves to play this Clockwork, generally on the off lane, and he has a great opportunity here with he could hook shot and cogs in an overextended Batrider, or really anybody that they want to pick apart, use the cogs to separate the team fight and make sure that they can dish out so much damage and just in general have some long range initiation. So I love that pickup right off the bat. I'm not sure if it would have been possibly picked up by Empire, but they want to keep their lanes open, their lineup flexible, and Clockwork is a great way to do this.
Yes, also Clockwork, along with this buck, it offers a lot of AoE clearing. You can go and defend pushes very easily just between the orb and the rocket flare from the Clockwork. They're both pretty spammable spells and do a respectable amount of damage. Again, we see between the Clockwork and the puck, there's a lot of teamfight control in Team Liquid's lineup. Dream Coil, and you can actually do some cute interactions between Cogs and Dream Coil, forcing out the stuns, making them setting up for perfect Dream Coils, and it's just a very potent combination. Also, they're both two great long-range initiators that they can both stand in the back and either hook shot or orb in. Puck also, when he gets that Blink Dagger, is going to be very potent. And I'm curious to see how Team Empire will respond, because when you're facing these two kind of slippery heroes that can go in from very long range, you have to go and make sure your team fights will work out in your favor. And they've picked up two of the biggest team fight specialists in the Darkseer and the Silencer. Silencer especially completely shuts down Puck a little bit less than it used to be in the previous version Last Word was absolutely monstrous and just, destroyed heroes like Puck or Sand King. Now it's a little bit better since, Silencer has a few more single targets, but it's still going to be very difficult. That Global Silence is going to butcher this Puck.
Yeah, it's a very powerful hero.
10
We
seconds
just recently saw
remaining.
him hit Captain's Mode as far as the tournament phase goes, and we have seen Empire pick him
5
up a
seconds
couple of times in
remaining.
previous events. I think they generally run him as a number one, a Blow Your Brain picking him up there, and
Reset.
yeah, they can use his ultimate to great effect. If you get a good vacuum, lasso off, and synergize simultaneously hit off that long duration silence, you're going to be able to really limit the casting and utility potential of Team Liquid's lineup. So they're going to have to get some hard right clickers to respond with this, and even then, he has some ways to deal with it through either picking up a Force Staff early or using that Last Word as a disarming mechanism. Either way, a lot of potential there, and I'd love to see this hero in the pool. An interesting interaction between Silencer Dota 1 compared to Dota 2 is Puck actually trying to phase shift out of Last Word will still take the
10
damage in
seconds
Dota 1,
remaining.
or sorry, Dota 2 as far as I understand it. So if they're faced off in the mid lane,
5
that would be pretty
seconds
interesting,
remaining.
but if they're just going to lane the Silencer in a carry role, then they're not going to have to worry about that interaction too much because Korok is definitely going to be taking this Puck on the mid lane. In the meantime, we're going to see a Shadow Demon pickup, which is just a great way to solidify your lanes in general. If you get the disruption off, you can pull the enemy out of position. You can go in with cogs if Clockwork's nearby, or just with some follow-up disables to let the illusions deal the damage they want to. Either way, it's a great hero. It's not going to be using the Demonic Purge in the sense that you stop a Silencer from dealing the damage. He's still going to be able to
Right.
right-click pretty hardcore. It's not like a life stealer here, but all in all, they're going to be able to amplify the damage they need to burst down the Silencer, hopefully before that silence comes on through, and just a couple quick disables, because it's kind of a
10
little bit of a
seconds
Western
remaining.
showdown between the trigger fingers of Puck and Silencer. If the ultimate comes out before the Waning Rift,
5
it's a completely
seconds
different story than
remaining.
the other way around. So we'll have to see in this matchup how those silences go on through, but beyond that, it's just going into some lineups that are really amazing in early game team clashes and
Right.
maintain that presence throughout the mid game.
Yeah, I'm definitely glad to see. Sorry, for Team Empire, I think it's a very wise ban coming out from the Visage because the only thing the Team Liquid lineup lacks right now is any sort of burst damage. Clockwork, Puck, they can both keep going and doing a pretty consistent amount of damage. Shadow Fiend's great, both offensively using that Purge to chase and defensively with the Disruption, but they don't have the kind of burst damage that a hero like Visage would offer, and in the hands of Fluff, very potent nuker. Other heroes to look at, perhaps we would see something like an Obsidian Destroyer, Outworld Devourer, to go and provide a lot of AoE damage to synergize with the
10
Clockwork and
seconds
Puck. But Silencer versus OD, it's not that great for the OD because both you can get disarmed and you're primarily a right click hero, and your orb will get cancelled by that silence. So a little bit tricky there, but I'm curious to see who they will go for because Team Liquid is definitely lacking that single target damage presence. They might just go for a Luna or something like that though to kind of shore it up.
Yeah, one thing is all the carriers are pretty much on the field. The Gyrocopter's been taken out, but other than that, they're not. Empire's not even banning out carry-oriented heroes. So Team Liquid will get the pick of the litter on that one. The issue is that they're also going to be worried about their support. Right now, they know that the Korok Puck, the TC Clockwork, is taken out, and presumably the IX Mike Shadow Demon. So now they're banning out all of Fluff's heroes. Fluff and stuff played in
Right.
Midas Enchantress, plays an aggressive Visage. Those kinds of heroes he loves to add in a little bit of extra utility and makes it so that their team fight can come a lot earlier than Empire's with that Darkseer needing some points in vacuum. Enchantress, Visage, those heroes are insane level 1 and extending into 2, 3, and 4. They can still put out tons of damage on towers and on heroes as well. So really solid
wouldn't-
bans from Empire.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to go and see Team Liquid look into some hero like a Venomancer right now, just to go and give them even more AoE presence in their team fights and provide that, as you were saying, early game lane superiority coming with that Gale. I feel that would fit their lineup fairly well, and it's also a reasonably tanky hero
10 seconds
that
remaining.
that's going to help a lot when you're dealing with a lot of burn damage and
5
just
seconds
Darkseer illusions
remaining.
wailing on you. But we will see what they go for. Last ban coming up for Team Empire, and they ban out the Nakes. That that does say something. Perhaps they thought that Team Liquid was setting up for a Nakes peak by picking up the Shadow Demon themselves, because Shadow Demon I feel would be the strongest counter to a Nakes in this current map.
Especially with that Bane ban coming on
Yeah.
out, that kind of also goes hand in hand with that as far as countering up the lifestealer. And if those two heroes are off the board, then that would kind of leave them open. Since Empire's not going to pick up a Beastmaster alongside a Darkseer, that would make it so that lifestealer could just kind of reign supreme, just run on through, rage out of any issues with Silencer's last word, and just dish out the damage he intends to there. But not going to be an option for them. But Empire wisely takes it out. It's just kind of showing how methodical and how they think of every different direction. Goblak here, drafting very, very supremely well. He has a very intent mindset going on into it, and all he needs to do is add a little bit of extra AoE damage. If Batrider goes jungle, we could see maybe a Queen of Pain, but it's really how they want to lane it and how they want to reinforce their lineup here. But the bans are amazing, and Team Liquid doesn't have as many options as they'd like to going on into this next one.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see how Team Empire is looking to lane that Bat Rider, because I think that will decide how their lineup goes. Also, we know that Blow Your Brain was going and kind of playing Silencer as a 1, but that's not necessarily the only way you can play him. I think that's one of the reasons it'll be really interesting to go and see Silencer in these next couple of weeks, is I feel that different teams are going to use that hero differently. This could even be a support Silencer, which, while I feel isn't the most powerful version, could be a surprise to Team Liquid and affect their picks.
Absolutely. So Luna does come on out for Empire. That might indicate that they want to run the Silencer in the mid and run him as a number 2 rather than number 1, because Luna really needs farm to get rolling. If she gets Yasha or Mantis style drums, I mean, so many different items to make her prominent in earlier team fights, then they could easily just carry the game with her and let Silencer just pick up some incidental intellect steals, reducing the damage of Shadow Demon and Puck, and getting a little bit himself. He doesn't necessarily have to play the highest item priority. He can just do pretty well here and there, get some mobility with Force Staff, maybe even pick up a Mechanism if Darkseer doesn't want to. And from there, he can kind of play pseudo carry, pseudo support. As long as he can survive, he can dish out the damage. But we're seeing a couple really interesting picks come on through, the Earthshaker and the Jakiro. The Shadow Demon Earthshaker is a classic combo of really pulling the enemy out of position and making them pay for every step they take out of line. With the Disruption, following with the Fissure, they can get a perfect block off and dish out a ton of damage in that time period. And now all they have to do is pick up the carry that will deal that damage. But along with that, Empire picking up the Jakiro, Twin-Headed Dragon, adding in a lot to the lineup as well. As far as the laning phase, they're probably looking at Jakiro, Luna up top with Batrider in the jungle, Silencer on mid, and Darkseer on bottom, and that'll make it so that they have a pretty good feeling for every single lane. It really is going to put a lot of pressure on Team Liquid to roam around with their supports to pressure out the Silencer, Goblak specifically, and try to go from there. But TC is actually going to pick up the Juggernaut, leaving Bulba on the Clockwork, and kind of using that player's utility aspect to try to make things happen with that hero.
Okay, again, David, I'm having some serious issues, so I'm going to hang up and call again, and hopefully this is the last time, because I really want to talk about these picks.
Sure, really interesting stuff coming on out of their lineup thus far. Really curious to see how Bulba will play on the Clockwork. Haven't really seen that from him so far, and that's really going to move things forward with what their intentions. They want to keep the range of initiation appropriate with Puck, his long-range Dream Coils, the Clockwork's hooks, and of course the Earthshaker Fissure having a really long extension with that as well. But with the Juggernaut, they're actually moving in towards a kind of unique lineup where they want to take the fights early. They want to push towers down a little bit with Healing Ward, and they want to force Empire into position where they're on the back foot off the bat. And against such an aggressive team, that might be the right course to take.
Yeah, it's also good to know that Earthshaker, as we were talking about, is very, very potent at level 1, and I feel that their roam between the Earthshaker and the Eridar, the Shadow Demon, is going to be super, super effective, especially when you look at heroes like Darkseer. That's a hero you would normally expect to get, full experience and levels in that long lane position. Not full, but, considerable amount. But I feel that between Disruption and the Fissure, they do have one of the two support combinations. This is one of the few two support combinations that definitely shut a Darkseer out of experience range. So we're probably going to see the Darkseer just move to jungle immediately and only come down when he has that Soul Ring and maybe 2 points in Ion Shell. That's going to allow TC basically free farm on the bot lane. And I think, we have seen Juggernauts get extraordinarily big. And that's a hero that can dish out a ton of damage if you let him. Not just from Blade Fury, we saw a crit-oriented build. That Blade Dance is one of the most consistent crit abilities in the game, and dishes out a huge amount of damage. Some fast phases, drums, Yasha, giving him a lot of mobility and just a ton of damage. It's going to mean that Empire might even be on the back foot. They're going to have to deal with Clockwork initiation. They're going to have to deal with Puck initiation, a Juggernaut that is a huge mid-game powerhouse and can scale fairly well. And on top of that, they can be pulled out of position at any time via that Shadow Demon and the Earthshaker combo. It's going to be difficult for them to play their standard aggressive lineup against Liquid's heroes.
Yeah. And Korok is one of those players that you always have to keep your tabs on. He's going to be able to get some farm here and there at the very least, if not dominating the lane. We'll have to see how that matchup works out for him, but one way or another, he's going to be finding some farm and getting some cool items to initiate with. And we've seen a lot of people underestimate the puck to the point that a Korok can actually get solo kills 1v1 because they just see this little fairy dragon as not that big of a threat, but they really have to keep an eye on him. It looks like he expects... the Scandal did pick up the Batrider, so he is actually picking up a Magic Stick, assuming the Batrider go on the mid lane, and it seems to be that that is the case based on the current items, but it's really hard to say. Batrider is able, and Goblack is also transitioning in. The Magic Stick will help the puck in that matchup as well, but probably not as much.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see, especially with that last word at 1, it's probably not going to be a curse spam silencer. I feel that, most teams have found that's not the most effective way to go and lane the hero, especially if you're putting him mid. Against a tri-lane, if you can go and catch multiple supports with it, it's fantastic. But in that mid position, you really do want last word, because it just does a little bit more damage, and the debuff is super relevant.
Absolutely. So Earthshaker is actually picking up a Mantle of Intelligence. That means that he'll be able to spam out his Fissures just a little bit more, and with 3 Clarities, Fluff and IX Mike together can make sure that TC is going to be able to farm up as much as he wants to and put pressure out that will force a really tough position. I was going to say from Funnick, but it's going to be actually possibly an aggressive trial. No, I mean, how could they possibly have an aggressive tri-lane without the Batrider available Scandal? Currently they're heading down bottom with Blow Your Brain and with Silent, but those together, they're really going to have Goblack help them out with this, and I think they're transitioning up their lanes even more. It's just kind of, based on their positioning, hard to tell what they want to do, but this makes a lot more sense in my mind. They're going to run the Silencer a little bit more supportive, trying to make sure that Luna can take on and contest the Juggernaut early, and from there, run the Batrider versus the puck on the mid lane.
Yeah, and their tri-lane is going to be really effective just due to the fact that they have 3 ranged heroes and that Lunar Blessing. All of them are going to right-click for a ton of damage, and their stuns are very reliable. Meanwhile, Luna picks up an Illusion Rune for free, and I don't think there's going to be any more action at level 1.
Yeah, they're both like batting eyelashes at each other, trying to get in the right position and wanting to obviously have the upper hand in an engagement here. But with this ward coming out to block off the pull, right off the bat, Silent is making sure that pull action will not be denying them anything. And although the Sentry Ward is in a generally good place, it's not close enough, and they'll have to be cautious about how they utilize those to make sure they can control the lane effectively for the time being.
Yeah, that's actually a great word placement, because if you put the Sentry on the top, you're actually not going to be able to quite see it. And I believe, yes, that is the case. Fluff isn't able to quite catch that ward. So, fantastic positioning there.
Yeah, just barely. Yeah. That's very unfortunate for them, but that's just one aspect of the tri-lane versus tri-lane. Meanwhile, Boba versus Funnick, 1 versus 1. Generally speaking, early on, Clockwork is going to have a little bit of a trouble going up against the Darkseer, the Iron Shell, doing more damage than the Battery Assault, unless the Darkseer is going to be the single target there. So it means that he's going to be harassed a bit more. But in the meantime, I think Korok is going to have an okay time versus Scandal with that Magic Stick and just being able to have control of the runes more effectively. But we do see a disruption down on bottom lane. TC starting off with that spin, avoiding the Ice Path. Blow Your Brain taking a lot of damage, but they're sending out a lot in IX Mike. So much damage. The first blood is going to be onto the Shadow Demon, and then Blow Your Brain is going to take a fall. Now looking to finish off the Jakiro. They only need a couple more right clicks, but they just can't close the distance. And now Goblack doing some right click action of his own. And that's really, in most of the action there, was based on the Lunar Blessing. All of them getting that increased attack damage with Luna around allowed them to just burn down the Shadow Demon extremely quickly, and although they did unfortunately lose the carry, Luna did get first blood, and it didn't cost her too much there. So Blow Your Brain, a good spot, but Goblack getting stunned out, and they do get that spin going on through, which will finish off Goblack at the last second. TC now in 2 kills, does get stunned out though, and with this Lucent Beam to follow, they could almost bring him down, but it's just barely not enough with that Stout Shield to keep him up.
Yeah, I mean, great pickup. He immediately took his gold and went and bought boots, and that's the only reason he was able to play so aggressively. Great itemization coming out from TC, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him go for something like a Poor Man Shield immediately, just to kind of reduce the amount of damage he's getting from the Lunar Blessing. Meanwhile, it seems like Scandal has been able to go and pick up that double damage. The supports on the Radiant aren't really able to go and contest the runes right now. It's just too dangerous to leave their Juggernaut alone, and that's very much helping out Scandal on the mid lane, because if they don't have vision of the enemy supports on mid, that means it's too scary to go, especially check out that bot rune. Imagine if there's a Jakiro camping that puck, even with the Dream, excuse me, even with his ball and
Another
face shift.
disruption coming through. They do start off the spin a little early. They really want this damage to blow your brain, but the Fisher's delay doesn't hit on blow your brain, but the spin is enough with the final right click. So even without the Fisher, they're able to bring down the Luna once more. And although she did get first blood, that is 2 deaths now on the Luna, and that really limits her in the sense that if she's buying her scrolls especially, she's taken a lot of time and now just having to walk back to the lane with the boots of speed. So kind of long walk of shame, while TC will pick up the experience that the lane has provided him to this point. It will help the supports a little bit catch up a little bit, Godblack and Silent, but for the time being, the Earthshaker's Fisher along with that Shadow Demon Disruption just showing how powerful this tri-lane really can be.
Yeah, I mean, it's going really, really well for the Radiant. If you look at it, Luna's just about to hit level 3, while TC is almost 5. That's a huge level discrepancy, and especially when you look at a skill like Blade Fury, it's going to... Oh, are they going to be able to get it again?
I'm not sure.
Come out? No, okay. Yeah.
Currently, the Curse of Silent forcing Juggernaut to lose quite a bit of mana here. He has the Magic Stick, still has the Blade Fury intact, but that's pretty much all he has to say about that, and even one more Curse of Silent will force him into a pretty bad spot. Luckily, they still have a Clarity available if Earthshaker deems it necessary. But in the meantime, I feel even just the pressure they're putting out by the occasional casual disruption that doesn't accomplish things, it keeps Luna so much on her toes. Blow Your Brain currently sitting at a CS of only 10. That is equal with the Juggernaut, but in the meantime, the other heroes on the other side are going to be farming up quite a bit. But speaking of that, check out the CS for the mid and top lane. We do have the Darkseer actually at 25 CS controlling the Clockwork rather effectively, Bubba only getting 11 himself. And on top of that, looking at the mid lane, we do see Scandal at 21 compared to Korok's 9, which is just rather substantial. And not putting a lot of damage. Korok is having to pop the Waning Rift here. A couple more right clicks would bring him down really quickly, but the Magic Stick, high damage. This DeJohn, no, the Phase Shift will make sure that he survives. So Scandal putting pressure on him, and I gotta say, Korok has got to be afraid for his life for the time being.
Yeah, I think Korok's just going to have to transition into simply bottle crowing and spamming out the wave. He's going to survive this lane, but Batrider's...
TC spinning on the disruption. They did pop off that Fisher early, and actually the Soul Catcher landing despite all the creeps. So getting that damage out, now turning on to Godblack a little bit, bringing him low. So Blow Your Brain is all by himself, and although Shadow Demon is low, he will survive. So getting more kills on the board for them. They're not really winning in the CS department, but they're dominating this bottom lane in terms of kills.
Yeah, and it's just this Juggernaut's almost going to hit level 6, and once he gets level 6, he can basically one combo either Jakiro or the Silencer. They are so low right now, sitting at 600, and well, the Jakiro, just being a naturally very tanky hero, is sitting at about 750, so he's out of that threat range, but the Silencer can definitely die to that spin ult combo.
So what do you think Juggernaut's going to go for with this early gold? He's already got the Phase Boots, probably a Magic Wand and along with that, but what kind of items does he need to keep the momentum rolling? Is he going to go for the Drum Yasha build and have tons of movement speed to stay active on his opponents, or is he going to go for some more right-click oriented damage? It's really hard to say right now, but he definitely needs something to stay active in the fights.
Yeah, I would definitely say he's probably going for that Drums Yasha build, just increasing his move speed. It synergizes so well when you already have Phase Boots, because move speed just stacks very well, because if you're about 30 ms faster than a hero, it's a very different feeling than being 40 or 50 ms if you can catch up a second earlier, for example. But especially if you're going for the Blade Fury build, you need to be able to catch up with them and just sit on them to get those extra right clicks in. And you're still playing against a team with that, Lucent Beam, with that Eclipse. The Django will provide a ton of additional survivability coming from that 9 strength. So I feel it's probably the most appropriate build. One thing to note is this Earthshaker is doing quite well for himself, already hitting level 4, and when you consider they have no pulse to work with this entire time, that's very, very commendable.
Yeah, that's been their biggest issue, is they don't really have too much to do outside of the lane. They can't just roam on around towards the mid lane. With the successful warding coming out of Empire, and the fact that they have their pull warded up means they really can't do anything with the neutrals to control the waves. So all in all, I gotta say that they have gotten quite a bit of experience per minute, all things considered, and that's pretty substantial for him if he can move towards that level 6, level 7, and have that much more presence on the lane. Meanwhile, we did see Scandal move in towards bottom with that Smoke of Deceit, but it's kind of just wasting his time there. And we actually, on bottom lane, the Disruption does come out. The stun with Godblack, with the Soul Catcher up, is easily going to fall, so tons of damage, but Funnick tries to help out as well. Going to pursue Fluff with that Iron Shell, should be able to bring him down. Ike's Mike dropping low, but the Shadow Poison will keep him up. Fluff, pull back, will he be able to get the stun off? He does, but he drops down in the end. Funnick taking a lot of damage. The Surge, not enough to keep him up. In the meantime, Korok with a beautiful Dream Coil, trying to bring down Jakiro in time. They managed to accomplish that, but TC taking too much damage, lassoed up, and will take a fall. No! Wow, one more right click should be enough. He spins out. Not going to be Lucent Beam, but the right click will do it. IX Mike too far north, out of position. Scandal makes him pay for it. But in the end, it is going to be 7-4. Empire is happy to take some even exchanges here, but it didn't go that poorly for Liquid considering all the transition. Getting the Darkseer to come bottom as well as the Batrider, that was 5-man Empire, and they couldn't really accomplish more than a few pickoffs here and there.
Yeah, and you know, the best thing was the Juggernaut got all the experience for that solo Darkseer.
Ooh, Korok lots of damage, doesn't have the phase shift, but it's not enough damage, and now Bulba coming on in. Get Cogs on top of the disruption, and that's going to be one dead Luna. Blow your brain. Getting a little bit dicey with knowing the phase shift was on CD. Try to get the Eclipse on through, but it just wasn't enough. And instead, he took a fall. So, really nice movement from Bulba and survival from Korok. And that, of course, sets the Luna even further behind. Blow Your Brain now sitting at 2, 3, and 0, and his CS is only 25 to make up for it. So, in a rather rough patch for the considering the item reliance of this hero.
Yeah, Luna definitely, you know, while we can see her be quite effective with nothing but, you know, drums, tranquils, and perhaps a BKB, she still does want all those items, and given comparable farm, given equivalent farm, I would say a Juggernaut's a much stronger carry, just because of the fact that, you know, his Blade Fury gives him a nice BKB light, and his Omni Slash is just very reliable damage, so I think that even though both teams are, you know, somewhat handicapped by this lack of farm on their carries, it's better for Liquid in the long run.
Yeah. And although Empire I would consider generally more scalable with the Darkseers, while Replica, the Luna, and the Silencer both being considered carries in their scalability, the issue is looking at Silencer's farm. Of course, he did kind of pick up a supportive role off the bat, and we can see that it worked with only... Okay, there is a lot of damage coming down. Bulba is lasted up for the time being. They pop off the Lucent Beam, but the Cogs actually pull Blow Your Rain back. The Ice Path making sure he's not going to be able to get on out of there. Tries to hook out, and it succeeds. And now the reinforcements come on through. TC, the Dream Coil, the stun comes up, and they are going to be just obliterating them with the Waning Rift and damage over time. TC wants to finish off SS, and Silent just takes a fall. Nice, really nice counter initiation, taking advantage of them in pursuit of the clock, using just a short-range defensive hookshot, getting them out of there and turning it around. Liquid on just a killing spree right now with a 7-1 and 2 Juggernaut. They can push down on the tower, do whatever they need to, because they have full control of the map now.
Yeah, I mean, that was phenomenal play coming out from Liquid Bulba. He went and, you know, dodged out the Frost Path, Ice Path for as long as he could. His team rotated fantastically, and is there something going on top lane?
No, yeah, Funnick is going to dodge into the trees, yeah.
He's fine. Yeah, but it was just great coordinated play, and it just shows that Clockwork is a very slippery hero, and in the right kind of hands, with the right kind of team to back him up, it's difficult to commit on him, because especially at nighttime, you can't see the TPs on the other side, so the stuns would need to be perfect, and they weren't, and because of that, Luna is falling even farther and farther behind. This is all time where Luna isn't farming. All she's got is a Wraith Band and a Bracer. If you look at the Juggernaut, he's finished his phases, he's got his drums, full Magic Wand, and he's ready to slay, especially when you consider the fact that he's level 8.
Absolutely, and Juggernaut has his Omni Slash back up as well as those phase drums, so he has a decent chunk of damage as well as can pursue after the fact with that Blade Fury. Currently out of position, but his team is only a teleport away, and with that, they're actually in an okay position if they want to try to defend this. They have 3 on bottom now, they're raring to go, but there are 4 heroes from Empire committed, and the 5th on the way. The tower dropping below half HP, and they have to do something in a very short time period. This creep skipping from Funnick has been very effective, pushing the waves off the lane, but they pop off the ultimate onto Batrider. I'm not sure exactly to what avail, but they get the spin off on Funnick instead, blocking beautiful blocks from TC, setting up the Fisher. They bring him down, now the lasso comes out from Scandal. A lot of damage, the Clockwork having already fallen. TC pops off that Omni to delay his death. Dreamcoil comes on through, he gets right-clicked on down. Nice Waning Rift coming out. They just need a little bit more fluff. Fisher up in 3 seconds, gonna hit on both of them right here, and actually just hitting on Silent, bringing him down as well as Scandal, but the right-clicks are sufficient. IX Mike on a triple skull, getting the disruption on the TP, and it looks like they're gonna get a full team up right here with an Echo Slam to secure it. They lost 2, they did lose their carry finally, but it's well worth it for the kills they were able to obtain from that engagement. Really nice action there, using their abilities effectively, and although it did seem that the Juggernaut was a bit overextended, Korok getting a beautiful Dream Coil off, getting enough time for the Fisher to follow up with that damage, and boy oh boy was that amazing team fight for them.
Yeah, one thing to note is one of the other strengths of Omni Slash is it means you can deliver your payload even if you're in a terrible situation. The TC, he knew he was going to die on Juggernaut, but since Omni Slash makes you untargetable, that meant he was able to get off his full Omni Slash, was able to get off whatever incidental strikes he was through his additional attack speed, and that was a ton of damage that Empire wasn't expecting. It's the same kind of situation with the Clockwork. If they're not able to go and kill the Juggernaut immediately, he's going to get off his damage, and if he gets off his damage, that's probably a teamfight you're going to lose.
Yeah. And so Empire, true to their style, really wanted to get a gold advantage out of that tier 1 tower on bottom, but being out in the open like that just boded very poorly for them, as of course they got locked down, and now it goes the other way. A 750 gold lead for Team Liquid, and they're going to take that to the bank and really come out with some great items. The Earthshaker really needs to move in towards those arcane boots to actually be able to spam out his abilities as he would like to, and from there can move on towards that Blink Dagger, which of course makes him just a whole new hero. On top of that, Korok is doing pretty well himself. 835 with his core items. He's going to be moving in towards that Blink himself most likely, and when he acquires that, he is just going to have so much survivability, so much initiation potential. He can do pretty much whatever he wants to try to pick off apart Empire, as this kind of lineup kind of seems to be indicative of with the, Fisher, the Cogs, the Dreamcoil. They're all about position and control and just pulling apart the team fight until Empire really doesn't have anything they can do to respond with, and that's pretty much what happened in that last engagement down bottom.
Yes, it looks like there's going to be a big clash coming on the mid lane. It seems like Empire's had quite enough of this, and they're looking to try to take down this tier 1 tower, but I think that, they need to be more and more cautious than they need to be more cautious than they have been previously, because Team Liquid's shown their willingness to defend these outer tier towers, and they've shown their ability to... Oh, Vacuum missing, and I think that if they don't get some reinforcements coming from Team Liquid, this is going to be a lot of damage being put on the tower.
But they know their timings. They have TP scrolls on most of their supports up top, and they're willing to time this appropriately, since Scandal can't initiate without a blink. He really can't go in to close the distance, and we do see some TPs coming out. Clockwork is going to be coming in from the side, but the hookshot won't be available for a while, so they're just doing some AoE damage with Poison and with the Rocket Flare, and it's enough to force Empire to fall back. So that kind of initiation wasn't sufficient. Godblack taking a lot, popping off the silence. First ultimate this game. Vacuum onto the Macro Pyre. A lot of damage coming through. TC is put up with the lasso and does not... He will get his Omni. The disruption comes out, as well as some last word. Ix Mike is barely going to survive with 13 HP. TC gets that Omni off before he drops down, but the teamfight isn't going to go the way for Liquid. They have to fall back from here, and that might not be an option for them. Korok on the run will be able to fall back from there, but the tier 1 will be forfeit. Empire did actually get the engagement they wanted out of that. A counter initiated after they came on through, and yeah, got the Silencer ultimate, which stopped Korok from jumping in with that Waning Rift and with that Dream Coil. So that's really where the teamfight broke down for Liquid, and it cost them their Juggernaut and their tier 1.
Yeah, I mean, and that's something that just goes to show how powerful Silencer, even in a completely support role, can be. If the Dream Coil was able to land, if the Silence was able to land from Korok, that probably means that the Juggernaut would have time to get his spin off and survive just a little bit longer. And, there's even a chance they could have turned that fight around, but Silencer ulti coming out at exactly the right time, and it just was too much for Team Liquid to fight through. However, I still feel they're in a fine position this game. The Luna is super far back, doesn't even have super far behind, doesn't even have Django yet, sitting on just Tranquil Boots, and it's not enough. They need to go and farm up this Luna even more, and I don't know where they're going to be able to find the farm.
Okay, they do get the deny on mid. Korok is silenced up for the time being, getting Iron Shelled on down, but I think he has enough escape just with that orb, with the jump, and no! They pop off the ultimate. A kind of surprised Wall of Replica coming out, and Funnick gets a little bit of extra burst damage to finish off Puck before his skills were available out of that silence. So really nice action there, and then they take the tower on the top with Luna. So they actually got a big swing out of that. Now TPing on down, TC is pulled up with that lasso, no Omni Slash available, Lucid Beam and Ice Path to bring him down, and Eclipse to secure it. They get that kill easily, and now Ix Mike should be forfeit as well, delaying the inevitable, but this is a big swing for Empire in general. Look at the gold graph just completely plummet down 2k advantage towards Empire. This is what they were looking for, taking a tower, taking a fight, and then transitioning down and getting a couple pickoffs on bottom too, and now they're going to try to turn into a Roche. The flare comes out, they have vision of it. The question is, will Liquid be able to respond swiftly enough? They definitely want to. This is too big for them to give up, and they know that it's going to take a long time for Empire to burn this down.
Yeah, but not as long as it would otherwise, because this is a Luna, so that, level 2 Lunar Blessing giving the supports a ton of damage, and it's going down fairly quickly. If they don't decide to initiate soon, they're going to be in trouble. However, luckily, they do have a smoke, they do have that hook shot to work with, and if there's a good hook shot...
There it goes, hook shot goes on through. Godblack is put out for the time being, focused down, but he does have that silence up. He wants to spam it out. He does get it, and so now Korok is in a pretty aggressive position, pops off the orb. Now a little bit of an Echo Slam coming on through. Godblack finally dropped down. The Macro Pyre in the fray. A Fluff trying to avoid it, but he's going to die in the end. Omni Slash coming out, double kill, looking for another, the disruption to make sure of it, and Luna's going to blow your brain the entire time on Roshan, picks up the Aegis and is walking away from this. Does not have an Orb of Venom or anything to keep her locked down, so blow your brain going to walk away from this with 2 lives available, and it does look like there was a buyback for Goblak coming back on. He did commit that for not really too much benefit, but they got the Roche, and that was pretty much solo experience for Blow Your Brain as well. Look at his experience minute per minute shoot up. He had a terrible time in the laning phase. Now he's back up to 364, which is definitely where he wants to be, out on top.
Yeah, I mean, that was a bit of a crazy engagement. I feel that, the timing from both teams was just a little bit strange. The Jakiro walking out of the pit, and then just the Juggernaut not being quite in position to follow up with the damage. But all in all, I think that's a trade that Empire would make. They got a ton of that solo experience, as you were saying, on the Luna, and just a lot of gold for the team. Given that they were so far behind a second ago, it is the kind of fight they want, and I don't know that if they would be able to go and pick a better engagement if Team Liquid went into the Roche pit. Also, the note, the Blackbriar was able to pick up his Blink Dagger through that, so this kind of aggression that we've been seeing out of Empire these past few minutes is just going to continue.
And Juggernaut is one of those heroes that isn't considered a super hard late game carry. His crit is a nice little bit of a damage buff that will allow him to compete through the game, but he kind of falls off after, let's say, the 40-minute mark, especially compared to Aluna, who dishes out that AoE damage with each strike through the maxed out glaives. It's just really hard to compete with, and with Scandal having that initiation potential to disable him despite his Blade Fury, they can easily get a pick off before that Omni comes out, and I think they're really going to be relying on Liquid to get the front-end initiation. Luckily, they do have a Blink Dagger on Korak as well, and he definitely has the tools he needs to do that if that's his intention.
Yeah, right now, though, they want to hit this time. Luna herself is just going for that...
Initiation comes on through. Scandal is going to pick off on Korak. The stuns come out. They want to make sure he can't immune out of that with the phase shift, and they do get the pick off there. So now they are going in 5 versus 4 on this tower, and I'm not sure, without Bubba here, it's doubtful that they can actually hold the line. The fortification comes out. It shows that they kind of want to contest this, but at the same time, what can they really accomplish? The Echo Slam won't be up for 15, and even then, it's wishful thinking. Surge comes out on top of that Demonic Purge, but the Fisher does stop him in his tracks for a moment. Now switching over, looking at Silent. They come out away from the tower. The creep wave is here. The Omni Slash not going to work. The mech pops off. Now they're actually going to get bursted down, turned around on. The disables come on through from Jakiro, and now Blow Your Brain's going to try to clean this up right here. Loosen Beam on IX Mike. Fluff is getting lassoed up, does pop off a nice Echo Slam, but he doesn't get any kills out of it. Instead, too much slow. The buyback from Juggernaut, he wants to be back on this, but he's all by himself, now just trying to run for the hills, and he might be able to get out, but at the cost of his friends, his buyback, and his tier 2. It was just a very, very painful engagement for Liquid. With the Korak pickoff at the beginning, they engaged in a fight I feel they couldn't take, and as soon as Goblak hit that ultimate, as soon as they were able to just get the pickoffs they were looking for, there was not too much hope, and I can't imagine what made them think that they could go out this far away from their tier 2 tower. They went for it, but it just didn't work out.
Yeah, it was just, even though there was a great hookshot coming out from Bubba, good cogs, the amount of AoE damage coming from that Jakiro was a little bit too much, and the fact that, Juggernaut isn't melee hero, Earthshaker isn't melee hero, they ended up tanking it for a surprising amount of time. Also to note, Earthshaker isn't going for those Arcane Boots at all. It seems like he's trying to rush the Blink, and I think that's the right kind of idea here. Because even with Arcane Boots, when you're fighting against a Silencer, you want to be able to get the jump on the team. And I think in these last couple engagements, Empire's shown how important it is to be the aggressor in this matchup. If you're able to go and pick off the puck, if you're able to go and pick off the Silencer, that basically guarantees that you're going to win the team fight. Those two are the critical heroes in this matchup, and these last 2 fights that Team Liquid has lost, it's because they do not have the Dream Coil to work with. That's an integral part of their plan right now.
Yeah. Along with that, it's just that Liquid really needs to get... There's initiation coming on through. They do get the cogs to start things off, and although the disruption comes on through, they're going to be able to put tons of damage on Funnick and make sure that he's stunned up to finish the job. Scandal comes in with that lasso. Could actually pull him over the Fisher if he wanted, but just trying to pull him out of the team fight. They don't really have enough retaliation to make more of this, but Empire is just going to lose their Darkseer, unfortunately. He's just going to get picked off despite his survivability items of the Mech and Ghost Scepter. Nice little pick off coming on through, and it shows the potential of that long-range initiation through the Shadow Demon. They have the vision on the high ground based on this Observer Ward and use it very effectively there.
But, this entire time where Empires, they lost one hero, but this is time where Luna is farming. She's caught up with the Juggernaut on levels. They're about equivalent on farm, and more than that, she has an Aegis to work with right now. So I feel this timing, Empire is fairly strong. The fact that Luna isn't going for a BKB, however, means they're not looking to push immediately. She's going to pick up that Manta Style. She's going to go maybe for a Butterfly, a Satanic, and just take advantage of the fact that she scales better into the late game than the Juggernaut. And Empire, even though they're known for their aggression, they don't have to play that way. And in this matchup, they're choosing not to, which I feel is just showing a good amount of respect to Liquid TC and the fact and the amount of damage he can dish out on that Juggernaut.
Absolutely. And the actually get the Blink Dagger up on the Earthshaker. Fluff was saving for a very long time for that, but soon he will hit his level 11. That rank 2 Echo Slam on top of a good position there really makes Empire in a kind of position where they don't have a great position to engage on. If they go through a push in the lane and have like 2 creep waves on top of them, sure they avoid the damage from Omni Slash, but they're going to be susceptible to some big nukes coming out of that Echo Slam. So if they're far from the creeps, they're going to get Omni Slashed on up and picked apart by these kinds of engagements that we've seen so far. But now with this Blink Dagger up on the Earthshaker, not even near the waves are they safe. So that's going to be making it very difficult for them to engage, and it puts a lot on Godblack's shoulders. He has to get those big global silences off at the perfect time to make sure that Liquid's initiation does not come out on top.
Yeah, I think this again. It's going to come down to who is able to pull the trigger a little bit faster, and the fact that this Earthshaker has a Blink Dagger, it's going to change the pace of the game. And I think that Liquid should try to take advantage of this, because while they have a momentary advantage in terms of items, they are not going to be able to hold on to that. Eventually, the Luna will go and pick up some more tanky items, perhaps even going back for that BKB, and Earthshaker's rendered fairly useless. And the longer the game gets, as we've been saying, the Luna's become more and more of a threat. So they need to find a way to make this Blink Dagger count. Perhaps they're going to wait for that Roche. It's coming up in about 4 minutes, but perhaps they're also just going to go for some of those patented fluff smoke ganks.
Yeah, so that is going to be really setting them up for huge amounts of aggression, and that's what they're kind of looking for here. Interesting pickup from the Clockwork on the mechanism. I'm not sure if you highlighted on it yet, but it's been more and more... Actually, one thing is that smoke right on top of the Berserker Ward. So that is just going to have Empire fall back for the time being. As long as they were paying attention at all, 3 people disappeared off their minimap at least, and they know that something's up. But right now, it looks like Funnick is actually baiting right now. They are all right behind him, and he is right on the creep wave. He wants them to engage on this. They are timing it so Godblack can go for this big global silence, but for the time being, it doesn't look like Liquid is taking the bait. They're going on, circling around, using a ward for a bit of extra vision. Let's check out the Radiant Vision. They are almost seeing Scandal, but he's behind trees for the time being, so they're actually going to pass on by, looking for a little pickoff here and there, and I'm amazed they didn't go for the bait on Funnick.
Yeah, I think they wanted... Funnick's a little bit slippery, and while they can definitely lock him down, it might buy enough time for the Dire to TP to their tier 2. Instead, it looks like they're just going to transition towards that top tower. But it's a bit of a wasted opportunity, and again, every moment where they're just not farming, they're not getting an advantage, they're slipping further and further behind against the late game team.
Funnick on the front line. They get the ward out, they see him there, they just don't want to touch him. They say, where Funnick is, we don't want to be. We want to flank them up and find them out when they're out of position, not the other way around. They get the Dream Coil on 2 Godblack, silence up for the time being. They can't burst him hard enough. This Global Silence does come out, and now there's just tons of damage trying to pull him back into the wall of Replica. The lasso comes out onto IX Mike, actually. TC falls before the Omni Slash goes on through, and it's just Team Liquid falling by the wayside. They didn't get the initiation. They needed Fluff doing a nice Echo Slam, but it's too little too late. There's just too much damage coming out from Empire, and I gotta say that Global Silence really set them up for that fight. The Omni Slash couldn't come, and there was really no point for any of them to be in that position. They go in thinking they have all these spells in their arsenal, and suddenly they're disabled for that extended period of time. They couldn't make anything happen, and Empire positioned that effectively where they didn't even have to pop the Eclipse to get their damage out. They focused appropriately. Broil Your Brain now pushing on the mid lane, and I gotta say they've just picked apart the enemy's lineup despite that being kind of what Liquid's been trying to do all game.
Yeah, and also more than that, it's just the amount of damage they're able to get on the...
Volva and Korok coming in on mid. They are actually looking at Blow Your Brain, even though he is pretty far out of the woods for the time being, so fast with a Tranquil Boot sitting at 465 MS, just walking away from that. TP coming on through from the Fluff, actually, and he's going to try to get that Fissure, but a little bit too little too late, and they're just going to try to single file towards the opposition. Really, even with the Global Silence on CD, I don't know if they can take this engagement without all 5 of their heroes.
Yeah, and again, just like in their engagements, they need to be super careful because they're playing against the Jakiro, and the amount of AoE that Jakiro is able to dish out, especially when he's fighting against 3 melee heroes, the Clockwork, the Juggernaut, and the Earthshaker. He's doing a ton of damage, and it looks like he's actually going and picking up a Veil. Is that on the bird? Yeah, that's going to be a Veil of Discord on the Jakiro, and it's just going to be more damage. The Earthshaker's melting immediately. The Clockwork's not doing much better. We were talking about the... Mechanism, that's a great item for Clockwork, increases the effective HP, and more than that gives him necessary armor, but against a Macro Pyre with a Veil on you, you're still just going to die immediately. That, the silence, any cursive silence that catch on more than that catch on multiple heroes, the supports on the Radiant team, they're just not tanky enough to deal with this.
Yeah, and now that Empire has this advantage, I kind of feel like it's here to stay. The 4 staff up on the Batrider, they can continue to do what they've been doing and pulling the enemy apart, pulling TC out, and getting the silence up so that he cannot get that Omni Slash to go on through. And from there, they already have a kill advantage. They've pushed down on so many towers, and with this golden experience, I think that Liquid really has to make something happen. Since that last smoke gank failed, I'm not sure if that's the right course of action to take, but either way, we're definitely seeing that they don't have, they have to get a full engagement and pick off, specifically on Goblak. That silence is really, really ruining their day, and if they don't find Goblak on the front end of things and catch him out of position, it's going to be very difficult for Liquid to take the team fight, even with the blinks that they've combined together with their Clockwork's ultimate.
Yeah, but this might be the fight they're looking for. If they're able to engage properly in that Roche pit, catching a multiple-person Echo Slam, catching a bunch of people in cogs, they do have a chance, but I think that they can't allow this moment to slip through their fingers, because if the Luna picks up another Aegis, that's another 10 minutes where they can't effectively fight.
Absolutely. So the Roche is dropping down pretty quick. They do have the flare on through, but even if a Bulba were to come on in and try to initiate, he doesn't have his team in his back. They can't fight on this, especially up against a Jakiro and a Darkseer combined together. So they're just going to let it fall, and Luna takes another Aegis. Didn't really get used to much extent by Blow Your Brain last time around, but it does mean that they have the potential to play as aggressive as they want to. They can make sure that Tier 2 will be dropping shortly, and they really, with 2 Lunas out, the best thing, especially with Manta Style up, is you can wait until your first death, play a little bit aggressive, die really quickly, and then come out with an Eclipse and a Manta Style simultaneously, and just clean up 100% out of that team fight, because almost all the cooldowns will have already been expended, and we see that happening already with the Manta Style to push down the Tier 2. Blood Rain is as aggressive as all, and now he has the net worth to back it up with the tower last hit. He really has a lot of durability, and it's going to be difficult for Liquid to pierce on through not 1 but 2 Lunas when they're already having trouble winning a fight as it is.
I mean, they chose not to go on that Roche fight because they thought they were a little bit too far behind to do something, but again, they're kind of relying on Empire making a mistake now. They do have the heroes to capitalize on it, Earthshaker, Puck, Clockwork. They're heroes that can go in, if there's an enemy out of position, really, really punish them. Even if you're fighting against a late game Luna, you can still have a bad team fight and lose the game. But it's going to be very difficult for them. I feel that, you know, at this point they're kind of playing out of their element, given the fact that they went for that Juggernaut carry. But they have proven to be a very resilient team in these past 10 games. You don't go and beat. They've not been playing scrubs. They've been beating top level teams. And if they're, you know, if they want to prove that they are, you know, probably the dominant Western team right now, this is the kind of situation they'll have to fight back from.
Absolutely. Empire's the team to beat, and this position still has its openings. If the Empire does outposition themselves just a little bit, if they get clustered up even a minuscule amount, I feel that Korok and Fluff are the individuals, players that can really capitalize on that. On top of that, we do see the Yules coming out for Puck, so with this rank 4 phase shift, in the middle of a team fight, and with the exception of the global silence, it's almost impossible to kill Korok. Like, they have to silence him up, otherwise, and even then he can still Yules, based on the fact that you can actually blink out of the 3.25 second phase shift, making it so that he is the hardest here to lock down. He can initiate all he wants, and Empire doesn't have much retaliation other than popping off that silencer ulti. And of course, like I said, he can use that kind of mechanic, so that puts them in a position where if they have vision on Empire, they can be in the driver's seat and really make these initiations count. But right now, for the time being, Empire is controlling things with this tier 2 tower push. They're looking to exchange. They know they can't take on the Aegis head-to-head until their base comes into play. But with this fortification and the TPs going on through, TC just has to get out of dodge there. In the meantime, they do take the tier 2 up top, so that was completely favorable for Empire, and that's pretty much how the game has been going.
Yeah, I'm curious. Like, I'm very, very worried for Team Liquid. I'm curious to see if they have any sort of strat plan coming up, because it seems like they're just content to farm up their TC on that Juggernaut, and I'm not sure if that's a winning plan. It is the best that they can manage for right now, because Empire is just splitting the map and farming the jungle, farming each lane, and it's very difficult for Liquid to go and engage on them, because that Batrider, that Silencer, they're very great counter-initiating heroes, and they're just staying off the map. So,
Yeah,
Empire's playing this flawlessly. But it looks like there's going to be an Orchid coming out on the Puck, and I think that's a great item. A little bit unusual, but they do need that extra silence to go and lock down heroes like the Silencer, like the Batrider, and it allows Puck to get some solo kill potential on heroes like the Jakiro and, you know, even the Darkseer to some extent, because Darkseer has not decided to go for that pipe.
Yeah, they can be extremely effective. Silencer building vitality with the treads, drums, urn, and even the vitality booster itself. He really wants to survive throughout that, but the Orchid and the Raining Rift on top of them, if they put the right focus in, Liquid could easily bring down Godblack fast enough, and then all they're going to have to deal with is the Luna, but that in of itself is quite a challenge as she is moving towards that late game stage with 17 levels, and of course she's going to be moving in towards some lifesteal type components later on, so either a Butterfly or a Dominator into Satanic will be her next course of action, and when those come out to play, it's going to be so difficult to really contest her in just a engagement that's not favorable.
Yeah, and also here we're seeing the kind of problem when you don't go for that Battle Fury on the Juggernaut. His farm is kind of fallen to the wayside. He's not able to go and keep. He's still ahead of the Luna, but she's been catching up and she's been farming at a faster rate than he has for these past couple minutes, and it's not going to be able to pick up too much more than this. If once he loses his farm advantage, he's already behind in net worth, and it's just going to get trickier and trickier. I keep focusing this because I feel like TC is the one hero that's going to be able to do the damage. Every other hero on Liquid until that Orchid comes up on the puck is just kind of set up. So the fact that he is currently behind means that they're going to need to go and pick off, 2-3 heroes before they start engaging on that Luna. If they're able to go and get rid of the supports, if they're able to get rid of the Darkseer and the Silencer, for example, would be the best case scenario, then they'll be in a position where they can go and engage on the rest, but they need to get those pickoffs before anything is really possible.
Yeah, in the meantime, Luna's just farming away, looking at last hits, 183. Blow Your Brain has the opportunity to get pretty much any item he wants, and it is the Butterfly that he goes for. Doesn't have buyback for the time being, so needs to make this Aegis count. Timing is just under short of a minute, has about 50 seconds left to pop off this Aegis, and really obviously wants to use it to get the full health bar and mana bar. But the fortification is available for Blow Your Brain, and Liquid needs to find this opportunity to engage. Here comes Scandal, pulling in with the 4-step. Ice Mike already picked off. Let's look at the buybacks. Nothing but Darkseer. Literally nobody but DS can buy back in, and that's not going to be very relevant in this engage. So here comes a big Echo Slam coming on through, and a lot of creeps. Boba popping in with that Cogs, but there's just too much AoE damage with the Vacuum Replica and Macro Pyre. The Jakira just doing so much work, and 3 heroes just drop down immediately. The Fisher dropping Blow Your Brain down to critical HP, but even then he'll just come up back to full HP. Gonna try to die to the tower right here, and he will succeed. So now the racks will be forfeit, and it's just too much damage from the Jakiro and the Darkseer. It's all been leading up to this, and although there was really good hookshot action by the Clockwork, the Vacuum follow-up made it so that they really couldn't accomplish anything there.
Yeah, I feel that, those two heroes, the Darkseer and the Jakira, they're kind of the unsung heroes of these teamfights. Oh, looks like TC's just going for some spin action, but nothing really coming with it. But those two are the unsung heroes. They're able to grab all of the melee heroes on the Radiant lineup, pull them out of position, dish out a ton of damage. This
Omnislash does come on through. The pipe won't really change much about that, but TC's just going to walk away, trying to force them off to at least make sure they don't lose the bottom racks. They don't want to concede just yet, and if they lose the tier 3 on bottom as well as the racks, they really don't have a choice. Now pulling Funnick out of position, actually, he's probably going to get locked down here. Nice little, interesting little play by the Cogs going on through and pushing him back. The hookshot goes in with the Fisher on top of that. Balluna's raring to go with a lot of damage. The Lasso's back off cooldown. Silent going to drop down here, most likely Bubba as well. Nice exchange, but the Eclipse doing so much damage. Losing Beam on top of that, and everybody falls again. Blow Your Brain dishing out a lot, but now on low life should be finished off by Korok here. Not willing to turn and fight, though. He wants to actually get his cooldowns off using the Yules and the Phase Shift. He'll survive for some time being, but all he needs is a quick blink and a Waning Rift to finish off Blow Your Brain. He doesn't actually see him perfectly, though. Pops it off, and it looks like they're going to go for 1-for-1. No, jaunting away, and will actually walk away from this, picking the kill off on the Luna, which makes she's going to be in the grave for 70 seconds, but the damage is done. She was able to pick up so many kills in that last fight, and of course we see her at 7, 5, and 14, and at least they defended their bottom racks, but they're still in very dire straits.
Yeah, I mean, they've already lost one pair of racks. They're behind against the Luna. Luna's picked up the lifesteal now, so it's going to be even harder to take her down. And, if Empire wants to go wait out, pick up another Roche, farm, until, I don't know what items they're looking for here. They have already finished that pipe on the Batrider, it seems. They can do that. They can wait out for another Roshan and win a fight there and go on to win the game. I feel that's going to be the critical point, because it seems like Empire is willing to play this game a little bit more slowly than they would normally. And if Team Liquid gets a good fight, we saw the amount of damage they're able to dish out from, especially that Earthshaker is doing a surprising amount with the Fissure and the Echo Slam. So a good Roche fight might be their chance to kind of sneak their way not back into the game, but keep themselves from losing at least for another 10 minutes.
Absolutely. Nice damage coming out of TC. We're really seeing that Blade Dance, actually, since it has such a high proc rate, allowing him to dish out the damage here. It actually picks up a Diffusal Blade, which is pretty interesting there. How do you feel that's going to be used effectively?
I think it's basically to mitigate the Surge. Now they have two ways to go and deal with it, between the Purge and the and the Diffusal Blade, so the Darkseer's toolkit is a little bit less useful. You can also, in cases of dire emergency, purge the Darkseer wall illusions. So it's interesting, and also it's just a lot of quick damage. Diffusal Blade's fairly efficient. I don't know if it's necessarily the best item. Also, working towards an MKB, I feel would probably be a little bit wiser because there's no way he can deal with the Luna. But if the plan is to kill everyone and then go back for the Luna, it's kind of as if you're playing against Sedusa.
I was kind of thinking a little bit differently. What if they use the defensive purge to take off the global silence off of one of their key initiators?
That would be pretty slick. Yeah, I mean you can do that too. So perhaps that's the way they're going to go for it. I think there is a lot of utility in the item, and the more we talk about it, the more I think that it seems to make a lot of sense in this game.
Yeah, because he has the Manta Style to purge it off himself. He'll certainly get his Omni Slash on out, but Korok and Fluff are having a really hard time getting their big spells off, and that's what they've been looking for all game. So with this Diffusal coming out of TC, like you said, it helps him out quite a bit with damage. I'm not sure, I guess going with the upgrade early, he really wants to make sure those Manta Illusions are dishing out the damage. But on top of that, I feel the Purge will help out quite a bit. Yeah, Jakiro's just going to get picked off here, out of position, going to get locked down. But yeah, I think that TC will be able to use that quite effectively if they can coordinate it well, which we've seen from Team Liquid in general. They're great at coordinating in the middle of team fights. It's just that Empire have been a little bit on the front end of the engages, and it's been very difficult for them.
Yeah, I mean, that immediate upgrade to level 2 is a little bit surprising, but as you were saying, it does go and give the damage to the Manta Illusions, and perhaps right now that's what they feel they need, just more and more damage. Again, I don't think the Manta Illusions are going to be that useful because you're fighting against the Macro Pyre, you're fighting against the just random Firefly damage, and even the Vacuum and Glaive bouncing. It's enough to take them down fairly quickly, especially when you have no plus strength items except for that drum. So a bit risky play there, but perhaps they are behind. They do need to take some risks, and this might be the one that puts them back in the game.
Well then, speaking of some interesting stuff here, we do actually see Funnick picking up a Refresher Orb alongside his Aghanim Scepter. So those illusions each doing 140%. Now if you can get them twice over both walls, you're looking at 280% of your own base damage thrown back per hero. So that has so much potential, along with the little bit of magic nuke it provides. They can't contest a Roche for the rest of the game if Funnick is not going to be locked down 100%, which right now Empire has too many heroes they need to lock down. They need to finish off Goblak before the Global Silence comes out. They need to finish off Blow Your Brain before he dishes out too much damage, and now Funnick is a very real threat as well. So it's going to be extremely difficult for Liquid to contest anything, and this is of course a Cheese Roche, setting up a Darkseer to fill up his full HP bar anytime he needs it. So that is going to be a very powerful cooldown that they've acquired from this successful Roche, and they have, of course, the mid lane pushing in continuously with these mega creeps to the point that Liquid is forced to be continuously out of position. They have to carry TPs constantly, make sure that they can be in the engage when they want to be, whereas Empire can do whatever they want across the map. We saw the Roche, now they're making a big push on the bottom, and until they hit the tier 3s, Liquid doesn't really have any way of dealing with it.
Yeah, and if you look at the supports on the Empire's team, they're basically unkillable at this point. The Jakiro's gone and picked up a point booster and a Ogre Club of his own. He's sitting at 11 armor from that Veil and his natural tankiness. He's got a cloak on top of that. We were already talking about how Silencer's gone for the HP item build. He's finished his Rod, which is surprisingly effective against Juggernaut if you're able to catch him when his spins down. And it's too difficult. I don't know how they're going to engage.
Yeah, this has got to be perfect here. The Pipe of Insight pops off, the fortification as well. They're trying to hold it out. The only buyback available is just short of for Juggernaut, but up for Luna and Batrider, and they're raring to go. Here comes TC to start things off here. Actually, Manta from Below Your Brain just dusted out tons of damage. He's not even focusing him, taking the racks and glaving down the enemy team, but huge Echo Slam coming out. Funnick still survives. Here comes Godblack's Silence coming on through. Scandal picks off Korok. He's going to get dropped down as well. The Wall of Replica #1. The Aegis pops off from Luna, but everybody has already fallen. There's just too much damage coming out, and they're all going to drop. They don't have the buyback on pretty much anybody, and this is Rax as well. So that is good game, well played coming out, and it's just... It was a long ramp up to this position, but Empire, once they started taking the lead, they would not lose it. And although it seems like there was just a tiny little bump in the road for Team Liquid's advantage, that completely got disintegrated only a few minutes later, it was a very real advantage that just got kind of torn away from them in just a couple really unfortunate engages where Empire coordinated well, got finally their global silence working for them, and with that, the Jakiro and the Darkseer were able to do so much work.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely got to see that, Silencer is a real pick. You don't need to give him a ton of farm. Just the fact that you can counter-initiate against heroes like Puck, against heroes like Earthshaker, it's just too much for these, definitely cast-oriented heroes to fight against. And in Dota, like one or two lost team fights, they got wiped twice, and the Luna was able to pick up a lot of experience from that. And it's just too much to really come back from, especially when you're playing against a team that has a Luna.
Absolutely. So that was game one of this best of three series here. It's going to be Empire taking down Team Liquid and moving on into game two with a 1 point lead. It doesn't mean that Team Liquid can't come back. They're going to fight and try to come out on top. It does technically mean they lost their winning spree. They had a 10-win spree, and now, unfortunately, that has been canceled, but that doesn't mean the match is over yet. They want to come back to this. It's going to be on their servers this time, US East, and we'll see if they can come back and put some out in the other direction. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hopefully you enjoyed this Premier League presentation of Team Liquid versus Team Empire. We're going to go to a couple of songs as we set up the next lobby, and we'll be bringing to you the next game in just a minute.